My name is Sandra. I am the worship leader here at All Nations Full Gospel Church, Cambridge. And I want to tell you my story. It's very interesting. I always looked at people and said, wow, they have such exciting, enduring testimonies of how their life was before Christ and then after Christ. But mine is so boring. It's so uninteresting. Nobody's going to want to hear about my story. But 6 years ago, when I became a born-again Christian, I really changed my thoughts about that. And really, I'm so happy about my testimony and how the Lord has kept me my entire life. So it all started from the womb, right? I was born into a Hindu family. My father, a Hindu priest. And they didn't have mandirs in Cambridge in the 70s and 80s. So the services were in the basement of our house. And I would have to worship gods, and I didn't understand the language. Being born in Cambridge, I didn't understand Hindi. I didn't understand all these gods they were worshiping. So I cried out to God saying, could you just show me who the one true God really is? And he did exactly that for my entire life. Because fortunately, my friend's father was a Pentecostal pastor, and he lived down the street. And he asked if he could take the children, all my brothers and sisters, and myself, to church. And my parents agreed to that openly. We attended Sunday school for years. And I was a witnesser at that age, so I brought every cousin, and we filled the buses, and we headed off to Doon Pentecostal Church. It was an awesome experience. So I came to know the Lord, and I wanted to know Jesus Christ the way I saw people worshiping him. So at the age of 12, I gave my life to Christ. And he has protected me and kept me from so many things in my life. I didn't have to go through the teenager struggles and the addictions and things people went through. I felt like the Lord just kept me through university, through everything, and I was so thankful to the Lord. And thankful to my parents that they gave me the opportunity to go to church, despite our differences. Many times they tried to pull me back and say, you were born into a Hindu family. You need to come back to your roots. But I resisted at every step, and the Lord gave me the strength. And despite that, we have a wonderful relationship today. I live with my parents, right? So it was amazing. I came to know the Lord. But later in life, when I was getting married, I decided to marry a Hindu. And when I did that, I wanted to please my parents. I wanted to please my husband. So I did my wedding ceremony in two religions, Hinduism and Christianity. Never do that. Never, never, never do that. Only please the Lord on your wedding day. Don't try to please everyone, okay? So I was married, and my husband came to know the Lord. He saw a peace and a genuine happiness in my life, and he wanted that. So he gave his life to the Lord. But the devil has a lot of destructive forces. And unfortunately, we did end up in divorce. And I was a single mother for most of my eldest life. However, we never stopped going to church, my daughter and I. We always continued to go to church. And being in the choir at church and going to mission trips, and, I thought, this is great. I'm walking with the Lord. Life is good. But really, I was a pew sitter. I didn't really know the Lord. I couldn't open my Bible and read without falling asleep. So I really didn't. So it wasn't until I was, 41 years old, unwed and pregnant, that I said, Lord, this could not have been your plan for me. You did not bring me from the womb to this stage to see me in this situation. So I did cry out to the Lord again. And I asked him, can you just bring me somebody that can show me the right way? And I didn't really think he could answer that, because I've been a Christian my whole life, I thought. But he did. He brought my pastor for All Nations Full Gospel Church as my destiny helper to show me how I could be a leader in the church, how I could follow with the Lord and get closer to him, and all of those things, going to retreats, breaking generational curses from being, in a Hindu family, a Hindu marriage. All of these curses that had come upon my life were all broken. I was afraid to come to this church for my children's sake, because I didn't want to make them fall away from the Lord. Hello, the church I was going to had the greatest in Cambridge playground area. Their Sunday school classes were decorated to the hilt. And I said, the children need this or they're not going to come to church. But I was so wrong. I was so wrong, right? So I brought my children here to this church. They got very planted in the church, serving, playing music, singing. My daughter today at university is part of the media team. She desires to do kingdom work. The little one is an usher, and a dancer. I was wrong. And that reminds me of a very important Bible verse in Isaiah. Isaiah 55:89. The Lord says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. My ways are greater than your ways. And I had to believe in the Lord, and I had to believe that he had my children's hopes and desires in the palm of his hands to lead them, closer to him, not further away from him, by coming to a smaller church. Back then it was a congregation of 10, 20. Today we've grown. But I want to let people know that, during your walk in life, you're going to make decisions that you don't even realize the Lord is leading you to for the betterment of you and your children. He just wants you to succeed in life. He wants to be there for you. He wants to bless you. And if you just let go, he will do that for you. So also the world is going to tell you, oh, if you're from another religion and you leave your family, what's going to happen to you? You're going to have no family. Nobody's going to love you the same. But that's just the world's trying to tell you who's going to be your enemy. They're not going to be your enemy. My parents love me to this day. My ex-husband, despite everything we went through, is now a member of my church. And his lovely wife. And his lovely wife and I served together on the same ministry in music. What the world thinks and who the world thinks and the devil thinks is going to be your enemy, that is not what the Lord has in store for you. So let's remember that Bible verse, and that's very important to me in Proverbs. Proverbs 16:7. When a man's way pleases the Lord, even his enemies will be at peace with him. So can you imagine? My ex and I were able to, for the first time in all nations, lay our hands together at the same time on my daughter and bless her life and see her move forward. That in itself is a testimony, to be able to share those experiences with an ex. So there's just so much I have to say to people that are born in another religion and feel that they are bound by that religion, that they have to stay in it. You don't. The Lord will guide you. You will not lose your family, your friends. Even my youngest daughter, her father is an unbeliever, but he's the greatest supporter financially and bringing her to church when necessary. The Lord will make it happen for you. You can't imagine if you will just reach out to him. So that's a little of how my life went, and the Lord has kept me all these years. Over 50 years, he's protected me. And I may not have this flamboyant testimony, but it is better to have a life with the Lord. My greatest pride and joy, that my eldest daughter, who I thought when sitting in church and just playing on her phone would she really grasp and get close to the Lord? And I'm so happy to say that yes, when I started praying after I came back from a retreat with All Nations, I prayed for her specifically because she was at that teenage phase where she's either going to go one way or the other, sometimes the world tells you, right? So I was kind of expecting the worst. But when I came back from that retreat, the visions and the dreams that started to happen for her and the youngest one, that night she cried out that Jesus visited her and she wanted to give her life to him. I celebrated. I was dancing with my pastor in the kitchen, and I asked him to let's do the prayer together. And she accepted the Lord. And from that day forward, just encouraging her to serve. And I'm an encourager. Mom's pushing you to do it. I cannot believe it. I'm in shock, actually, because I thought she wanted to go to Hollywood and do media. That's why she went, to university for media communications. She told me the other day that she just wants to serve the Lord and do kingdom work in media. That just brings tears to my eyes, that she wants to serve the Lord in this way. Jesus is everything to me. He's the one that protected me, guided me, led me over 50 years into a life of happiness, peace, and freedom. He has never made me feel ashamed to be in a Hindu family, but a Christian. So the Lord, He is my provider, and I can always reach out to Him for anything. I pray at each one of our prayers that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and everyone that has any contact with my nuclear family, that they would all still serve the Lord. And then, of course, I'm constantly praying that my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, all the Hindus and the Muslims in my family would come to know the Lord through me and find peace. And many of them have reached out to me. Believe it or not, my father, that Hindu pundit, he actually reached out to my pastor and I many times when he couldn't help some congregants that were, fighting with the devil. He reached out to me and asked us to pray for them in Jesus' name. So I see that there are glimmers of hope. I see Bibles in my house. People are quoting me scriptures that are non-Christians. So my prayer is for each and every person that touches my life would know who Jesus Christ is. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this. And if it only helps one person to understand that Doesn't matter what family you were born into and what religion they're telling you to be, just follow Jesus Christ. He can change your life.